that you want to do is remind yourself of the landmarks. So what you want to be doing is you want to feel the radial styloid. You see where the radial styloid is. Put your finger over there, and then feel where the ulnar styloid is. Okay, and then put your finger, one finger there, and then just run your hand down the wrist until you feel the end of the metacarpal. Okay? And just appreciate that between here and here, you have 8 bones. Okay. Now you knew that, but you never really remember how small the area is. Okay. So when you put your fingers on these bones and ask you to mobilize, you can't really take a hold of one bone and mobilize the other, okay? Because your hands are just too big for that. So what you're doing is you're mobilizing with the fulcrum, or the most mobilization of one bone on the other. But understand that there are multiple bones moving, but one bone hopefully is moving more than anything else, okay? So if we look at the radiocarpal joint, the most common way to start a mobilization is to do a little bit of a distraction, okay? So come sit as close as you can to the table. Okay. So to do a distraction, and the position of the forearm totally depends on what's available to the patient. Because most of the time, if you're working with somebody who has wrist problems, they're going to have some limitation with supination and or pronation. Supination more than pronation. So if they're comfortable, you can keep them in a fully pronated position. If they're limited, you can put them in a neutral position. I never really work with anybody in a fully supinated position because most of the time they have trouble getting there. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with radiocarpal distraction. And so all you want to do is stabilize the distal radius and ulna. Okay, so you're going to take your hand around the distal radius and ulna. And when I say stabilize, I don't mean squeeze like that. It's not a flexor profundus grip. It's more like you're using more of the lumbricals to just take a hold of. Okay, and then so your thumb and index finger are definitely securing the distal radius and ulna, and then you're going to take your other hand and just put it as close to, totally adjacent to the stabilizing fingers, and then you stabilize with the radius and ulnar hand, and just do a distraction, which is pulling the proximal row of carpals and everything else distally. And what that does is it decreases the surface tension. So this hand, my left hand is staying still, my right hand is moving. But when it's moving, it's not slipping on the skin. It's just taking a good hold over there and distracting, okay? And so that's distraction, and distraction is a joint play movement. So there's no grading of it. What you do is you can go to end range and maintain it, or you can go to end range and oscillate a little bit. If you are just touching the patient, you know, for treatment for the first time, and they've had a fracture or something like that, I usually go less than end range. It's just, it's a very comforting move. So if that's end range, I'll just distract a little bit. but very quickly, if I make sure that they're not painful, I'll come to end range. Okay? So that's distraction. Okay? The next one is a PA glide. Okay? So the proximal row of carpals as a whole makes what shape? Concave or convex?
Concave.
Which way was that?
Proximal row of carpals as it articulates with the radius, convex. So you have a convex surface moving on concave. So if I want to increase wrist extension, I'm going to do an anterior glide. Okay? PA glide, increase extension. Okay? Now again, there are a lot of ways to hold the hand when you're doing this. One really easy way is, lean a little bit forward, is to, this is a general way, okay, is to stabilize the distal radius and ulna from the volar surface, okay, and just put the heel of your hand against the proximal row of carpals, okay. You do a little bit of a distraction, which is with my fingers here, I'm pulling up. Think of it almost as a grade 1 distraction, because the purpose of that distraction is only to decrease the surface tension between the joints, between the bones of the joints. Okay? So a little bit of a distraction, and then I'm going to glide the whole convex surface of the distal of the proximal row of carpals anteriorly. Okay? So teeny bit of a distraction, anterior glide. And so that would then be a grade 3 or a grade 4. Okay? As she gets more range, okay, because this is neutral, as she gets more range, I can just take her to her end range. Let's say she has 10 degrees more, okay, and I'll do my distraction, but my distraction is now this way, okay, and my mobilization is at that 10-degree angle, okay. So, teeny bit of a distraction and mobilization, okay, and as she gains more range, I can go distraction, but now it's that way. And then increase the range. So that's one handhold, okay? Let your arm come down. Another way to do it is I'm still stabilizing the distal radius and ulna, okay, here. And, but this time my force is going to be more on the radial side of the joint, okay? So I can distract a little bit, and with the whole, my whole thumb, not the tip of my thumb, but just the whole thumb, I could be taking the proximal row of carpals anterior. And then it becomes a little bit easier to mobilize as she gains more range. So that's another way to do it, still doing a PA glide, okay? Then you can, as a person gets even more range, you can stabilize with your index fingers. Take her to the end of her range, so this is to get even when she's in the higher ranges. And then I'm gliding with my thumbs toward the volar surface on the radiocarpal joint. So those are several ways to do that. Now, if you're taking it now to someone who has even more range now, one second. So, now, if she has, getting into the higher ranges now, okay, so can I really glide the carpal bones? Not really. So if I wanted to glide the distal radius, which direction would I glide?
Posterior.
Posterior, right.